especially now that I live in LA, I hear these conversations more frequently. People often credit Insecure as being the show, the breakthrough show that allowed kind of this Hollywood machine to really have a different level of respect for Black creativity and Black creatives. What's it like to be sort of attached to that sense of responsibility as you're trying to write this hit TV show, write and act on this?
I feel like it's been an incredible sort of responsibility, and I would never use the word burden at all. For me, it's an opportunity to open doors for shows and like ours moving forward, and also sort of like demystifying the sort of limitations of what Black women can play and the types of stories we can tell about Black women. And I think that my hope is that reverberation of our show continues on and create spaces for other storytellers. And I truly believe that there are more stories than there are Black women to tell them. And so I want other writers of color who feel like our show isn't telling their specific story. And we get that critique a lot of just like, especially when someone's just like, well, that's not my experience with my man on my couch. My response is like, write your story. Because to me, it's just like the responsibility for nuanced storytelling about Black stories is all of ours, and you know this very well as a journalist. Like, a part of your function is to go into those spaces that are predominantly white and tell stories about us that aren't told because they don't fit into some sort of narrative that, Hollywood and media believe that we have to sort of perpetuate. So I'm proud to be on a show that is saying very loudly, we can be regular. It's not always Black girl magic. We can make mistakes. We're not perfect. We're not magical Negroes. We broke sometimes, but that's also not going to be, not the defining characteristic of anybody. And we're all, at different stages. And so my hope is that the show can continue to carry that torch, but then, that torch can light other torches as well. So that way the Hollywood as a whole can be sort of inundated with amazing stories that we haven't seen yet.
Do you feel as if this is a good time to be a Black creative in Hollywood, or are we making too much of, the fact that some people have termed this some kind of renaissance that's happening because of your show in Atlanta, and you see that every day you're reading about another Black show being greenlit?
Yeah.
So do you feel like this is actually a good time?
I think it is a good time. I think that the difference between acknowledging the Renaissance and seeing it as sort of like a victory and sort of like a continued sort of war is sort of the needle to be threaded, because I think that people thought that, there was a Renaissance in the 90s because we had Family Matters. We had like so many Black shows on the air. Sister, Mr. Cooper, we were hanging with him. We were like, there was so much Black television. And yet those shows weren't indicative of every Black experience in America at the time. It was sort of idealistic, where everyone had a full house, everyone had a set, everyone had a budget. And so I think the Renaissance we're seeing now is the stories that are being told are more real and authentic and nuanced. And so I think that should be celebrated, but I don't think it should make anybody comfortable, because I think that there is a real recognition in the sort of corporate machine that is Hollywood that, much like in music, our culture is bankable. And so I think that I would never sort of want to be confused by, the dollar signs in a lot of sort of the corporate folks' eyes as being anything but. It's not, sudden change of heart and interest in, the, African diaspora. It's more sort of like, oh, what sold really well? Black Panther,
But what was so funny about that is, I certainly hear what you're saying, is that it's an easy equation. Like, Black people go to the movies. So if they see themselves, more Black people might come to the movies. It's not that hard to figure out.
Yeah.
But we have been consistent, avid consumers of culture for a long time.
Yeah.
So it was kind of funny to me that they just figured out Black people went to movies when Black Panther happened. I'm like, this is, matter of fact, we're probably the largest group still going. You know what I'm saying? Just much like still watching linear television. Like, we are over-indexing there as well. So even sometimes when obvious money possibilities are in front of their face, that still doesn't mean they will actually, that would actually cause them and spur them to have better representation.
I think too, it's the inability to connect that dot, which baffles me too. But I think it's the result of who in the room looks like us at that level, who are making those calls. And I think the more we infiltrate those spaces, we can sort of relay the message, because I think it's also recognition of the bankability of Black talent, and also the fear of what that means. And I think that it helps when there's someone in the room, and you can always tell too, when there's a Black person in the room, sort of like the kind of product that comes from that, because it can also helps with, maintaining the integrity of the Black story being told, and it doesn't feel like a green book where you're just like, I wonder who were in some of those spaces. You know what I mean? And so I think that's just as important as sort of just like, recognizing who's in the audiences, buying the movie tickets and the popcorn, but also trying to infiltrate those sort of decision-making spaces.
What do you make of the fact that it seems that other networks are trying to copy Insecure in some respects? Because suddenly it's all these, friendship shows that have sprung out of nowhere. It was interesting that you mentioned how many Black shows were on TV in the 90s, and then Friends happened, and then we just disappeared. Right. They were like, nah, we done with these Black people. We done found some really awesome white people now. It's over with. So, kind of, you guys seem to be sparking, and when I say copies, I don't mean to disrespect or diminish those shows, because to get a show on TV is like really hard to do. But do you all feel like you're trendsetters in that respect?
I don't. I mean, I wouldn't speak for the group, but I think that I think it feels like a domino, right? It feels like there were shows that inspired our show, Living Single. There are shows that. Girlfriends, like there's everything's derivative, and so I think that there are shows that inspired us, and I think will inspire other shows. And to me, I'm just hoping that momentum continues to build, and I think that we would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge that, because of where we are in sort of like, the cultural lexicon of like Black stories, that people don't look at what we do on the show and don't feel inspired or, feel there's something really powerful of feeling seen. And I think that can be inspirational, as opposed to like, the thesis of our show being, Issa gets a job is something that's like that inspiring to people. Cause I think, needing money is a motivator of itself. But I think just being seen has been, I think, something that people can take away. And I get that a lot, especially from like being a plus size Black woman on a show, and I'm not, some sort of like visual joke, and I'm not, some unconscious sort of it's crazy how it like more of a character and not a caricature. And so I think that has been inspiring to plus size women, and they shout out. I only know because they come at me in my DMs being like, "Girl, yes." And so that has been great. But I think it's just the power of being seen.
Right.
Yeah.
And a plus size woman that's getting hers.
Yes.
Like Kelly get more action on the show than probably just about anybody. She in these streets.
She's in these streets, and it's just like there's no. She's goals for me, because I think people think that like we're very similar, but I'm very, very shy and I have social anxiety, and she was born, I feel like, without questioning herself. Like I imagine that, not once was she surrounded by anyone that didn't tell her that she was beautiful and that she was worthy. And so she's never entered into a world questioning her taking up space. You know what I mean? So for me, it's just like, oh, what? Like, this is the character when I play her. It's just like, who is this person who's in this space, who's not asking for permission to be there? And that to me is just like, that's the confidence that she has. That's the, like, the unapologetic sort of just like full voice, full bodied sexual creature who's not apologizing for any of it. So, she's so fun to play. I'm trying to grow into her. She's my goals. So maybe one day I'll be as free as her.
Well, I was gonna say, do you still consider yourself awkward Black girl?
Yes. I today in the parking garage, I was flossing in the car. My teeth. I was just like, I don't want to, because I had a breakfast sandwich. I was like, I'm going to have poppy seeds in my teeth. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm listening to study jazz, which is like cheesy Spotify jazz. And I'm flossing my teeth. I'm like, this is the most awkward thing I've ever done in my life. But it's just, and I talk about it. I think that's the difference. I think now I feel more free owning my awkward. Like it's wild. I had a whole conversation with someone the other day and I had my shirt tucked into I'm awkward and it's okay. It's like, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to
You're gonna floss in cars.
I'm a floss in cars and parking lots because I think dental health is important, and I don't want to have.
You floss after every meal. Are you that person?
No, I'm not that person.
Okay,
but I'm trying to be better about like flossing generally. And I was just like, do I do this now or so? I'm very much still awkward. And
so, how does this translate to your dating life?
What dating life?
Okay, so you at first have to have one.
I have to have one. No, I think for me, I have to demystify, especially because like people know me now, and it's just like, oh, it's trying to let them know I'm not my character. And so
you probably got some people rolling up on you thinking they about to get Kelly at Coachella.
Right, they're like Kelly at Coachella, but no, they're getting Natasha flossing in the parking garage that wants to talk about Dershowitz's testimony at the, and they're like, what? But I think that I'm very, very shy when it comes to dating, especially in LA. I think too, I'm wildly suspicious of motive, because I think I want someone to want me and not what my work can help them with.
Right.
And so
now, were you that way before any of this, kind of?
Yeah, started? I think I was always a suspect of motive, but it was less than about my current work and more sort of about, I guess I've always been the suspect of motive, but I think now it's just work specific. But I'm open. I think that I've done everything from, I do all the swipes. I hired a matchmaker at one point.
You hired a matchmaker?
How was that? It was not great. I think that one of the themes we explore on the show is, Black women dating and at different levels. And it's difficult to define the right combination of someone who can understand that there are going to be 6 weeks where I go shoot, Sonic in Vancouver, and then we're going to be on the phone, and someone who's able to hop on a plane and oh, let's have a date here. And so it's been tricky, but I'm very sort of cheesily a hopeless romantic, and so I'm open to what 2020 holds for me. And we'll see what happens.